Let's talk about what happened last night between Floormen and the MeleeCreeps on a Deadlock tournament called Nightshift. If you're not familiar with Deadlock, this is going to be very strange to you. But if you play Deadlock, then this will make sense. I'm sorry to those who don't play Deadlock. So for those of you who don't know me, I know this video could probably pop up on some people's feeds that are not familiar with me, so I'll just give you a brief introduction. My name is Andre. I used to work at Riot Games doing esports production backstage as a live producer, so I handled with a lot of EULCS games and some NALCS games and other finals events and whatnot. So I was there for 3 years, and I just want to offer my perspective on what happened last night. Recently, there is a mechanic in Deadlock that was changed. A mechanic that works as an economy balancing mechanic. It's called the Urn, and the Urn just gives the team who manages to deposit money, which is souls in Deadlock, and money buys you items. If you've ever played a MOBA, you know this. You know how this usually goes. You play the game, you play a match to make money, to buy items, and that makes you stronger, and then you go from there, right? And so this mechanic in Deadlock is to help teams either get ahead in souls or get a comeback urn, which is when the team is behind and they can get an urn that will hopefully help them balance out the amount of money between the teams and, of course, the amount of items. Now, recently, Deadlock devs have changed how the urn works, and it was a big change. You have to understand that Deadlock is still in a very much a testing phase, a figuring it out phase, even though it does look very, polished and almost ready for release. There's still a lot of things in the background and in terms of mechanics and balancing that they're still tackling every day. And so this is one of the changes that they tried to hopefully make the urn more either more accessible, more fun. Anyway, it's experimenting. There was one very important change to the urn mechanics that allowed this exploit to happen, which is the team that is carrying the urn or deposits the urn on its drop-off spot gains resistances. So they gain 35% spirit resistance and 35% bullet resistance, which in Deadlock is basically, if you've ever played a MOBA, it's your armor and your magic resist, right? It's supposed to mitigate damage from those two sources. And so having that buff is really good. The radius at which the team carrying the urn gets that buff is 60 in-game meters, which if you've not played Deadlock, that's huge. It will definitely affect the whole team that is defending that urn. And so here's what the MeleeCreeps did last night. Knowing this, they went ahead and purposely fell back in money during that match so that they could get a comeback urn. And what they did was one of the players picked up the urn, and then they, instead of delivering it to get the souls, which is the sole intent of this mechanic, they instead carried the urn with them, dropping it, picking it back up, to basically guarantee that they could do other objectives in the game and fights with that 35% resistances on top of what they already had. Now, there is one aspect, I'll give you my takes, but there's one aspect I want to also refer here that I think is very important to know. I believe that the urn mechanic exploit that they did, which is hard to call an exploit, it seems like an oversight by the devs that didn't think how this could be used this way. There's one more thing that they did, and that was them all buying Golden Goose Egg as their first item, which is very unusual in a Deadlock match. So if you don't know what Golden Goose Egg, it's basically an item in Deadlock that you can buy, and the more you hold on to it, it keeps growing in value. And when you sell it back, depending on how much value it accrued, you will get permanent buffs to your character, so they stay throughout the whole match. And so what they did was, after getting that urn, remember it was a comeback urn, which meant they were behind in souls from the enemy team, then they popped all of their Golden Goose Eggs. Basically, they were making sure that all of the value accrued from the 5 golden eggs in the team was not going to put them above the enemy team so that they could get that comeback urn that spawns very near their base. And so once they did that, they got that comeback urn, and everybody popped their Golden Goose Eggs, gaining all of those permanent buffs, which were around 13, 12 buffs for each player, which is a lot. Then they sprung into action. Now, here's my hot take. Coming from experience, I'll explain to you how usually in at least on the Riot Games esports production side, back when I was there, this is how situations like this were handled. We had people who were specifically in charge making the rules, but also making sure that the rules are enforced. One of the big rules was exploits and bugs. League of Legends is a huge game with a bunch of characters, and so there's usually bugs present in every patch. And so the process that we had internally is very simple. the person in charge of the rules was in contact with people from the dev team. And the people from the dev team would just simply inform us of, when a new patch is out and, the pro players would have to play a match on stage in that new patch, we would have to inform them of all the known bugs and known exploits so that they could be aware and not use them. Using them after knowing and being informed was enough to get a punishment. And so I believe that if there's anything that Nightshift can learn from this is this specific type of procedure. If there's any way that they can get in touch with Yoshi or someone that can represent, Deadlock's dev team, and they can have a back and forth on which known bugs and exploits can be, told to the Nightshift team, in secrecy, perhaps to not, because there's always bugs and exploits that we never know about. Trust me. And so if they could perhaps have a process where this can be known so that players could be informed so that they couldn't do this. Now, again, my hot take on this is that I don't believe the MeleeCreeps were very right in doing this because they claim they did this to show Valve that this is a huge exploit that needs to be fixed before a big upcoming tournament next weekend. And while that seems like a good reason and it should be brought to attention, I don't believe it should be brought to attention on a tournament game. I feel like that is a little bit bad manners. I'm very passionate about the game and I really enjoy it. And when I saw this situation happen, it immediately brought me back to my esports days. And so I just wanted to put it out there that there are ways to deal with this in a tournament, right? Even if it is a community run tournament. I believe the Deadlock dev team is very tight knit and very passionate as well. And I believe that this could be arranged for keeping sanctity within these community run tournaments, because if we know anything about esports is that the community run tournaments are the lifeblood of any online multiplayer game. We can't get to the big money prizes and to the whole spectacle of esports as you're kind of used to without the grassroots. And so that's why to me it was important to kind of make this video, just put my voice out there. I don't know. I'm very passionate about Deadlock. I've been enjoying Nightshift, and I don't want something like this to kind of ruin the vibe and ruin what the tournament means to everybody that plays Deadlock that watches that, right? And so that's all I have to say is that I don't believe that the intent that MeleeCreeps had is very close to what they messaged out. And I believe this could have been done a different way that would not affect the game. That match where Floormen decided to forfeit because of that exploit just leaves a bad taste in my mouth. This situation could have been handled differently, and the devs could have still been made aware of such a big exploit that could be done with the urn. That's it. That's all I have to say. I appreciate it if you listened, and if you enjoy Deadlock. I don't know if I'm going to make more Deadlock videos because, again, I'm not a very good player, but if there are more things that I want to talk about, I will. So I guess press the buttons, subscribe, follow, all that stuff. Cool. Cool. Thanks.